There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Learn, getting more out of life. Learn, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello and welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Jo Stanley and there's just two of the team here this week, myself and hello Luke Hines.
Jo, what are we going to do without them?
That's all right, we can keep going. We've got Rachael Finch is off on assignment and Darcy is enjoying the school holidays with his family somewhere fabulous. So here, keeping the seats warm, are our man from Gotcha for Life, Gus Warland. Welcome.
G'day guys, good to see you.
Welcome.
Netball great, Bianca Chatfield.
Thanks for having
My
me
couch
back again.
pal, hello.
I know, very comfy.
All right, guys, we're going to cut to the chase here. Look, there's no doubt that we love our partners, but sometimes they can be a bit annoying, and we all can. That's about relationships. You've got to tolerate each other, but there is that little thing that can be a little bit too annoying sometimes. Tell me.
For me, it's dirty dishes. Everyone knows I love to cook. I'm all about food, but if I walk into the kitchen and there's dishes everywhere and dishes soaking in the sink, it just boils my blood. I'm like, oh, annoying. I just want to cook.
Okay, fair enough. What about Mrs. Warland?
Well, 25 years married, 30 years together, we'd have no doors on our house. So you can't shut anything. Not even in your bathroom.
No, the toot.
Not on the toot, not in our bedroom, no doors whatsoever. And she is lovely and I do love her, but super annoying. And we don't have long enough to go through every single thing or we'll be here all day.
All right. Well,
sorry, babe.
High on many people's list, Gus, is snoring. And I'm speaking from experience here because my husband, Daz, is a chronic snorer and I have a checklist when he takes off with the snoring, right? Firstly, I have to make sure his hand isn't behind his head. Then I have to roll him onto his side. Then I get the elbow into him. And then if that's no good, then I'm shaking and going, stop snoring, stop snoring, stop snoring.
Oh.
And eventually we get a good night's sleep.
Jo, there is nothing worse. It feels like you're being woken in the middle of the night by a freight train, and it really is hard to get back to sleep, and it can put you into a bit of a stressful state, and it could interrupt that very valuable REM sleep that we're all looking for.
Yes, that is exactly right. Well, either way, it's not fun for anybody. Just ask Stu. He turned the story of his snoring problem into a musical.
Snoring. It's the dirty little secret happening in beds everywhere. But one snorer, Stu Walker, has taken his story of snoring from the bedroom to the stage.
Apnea, the musical, based on a true story about a guy called Stu, who when he slept was way too snory.
I found out that I snored because my wife told me. It's fair to say that she wasn't happy about the snoring, and she slept with earplugs and then ended up I sort of got kicked out to the bungalow.
I can hear you snore from the neighbor's house next door. All I want is a peaceful night, but it's like I'm sleeping with a motorbike.
It was very loud enough to hear outside.
But Stu found it hard living day to day with the symptoms of snoring.
I wake up feeling like I'm hungover despite not drinking. I found I had lots of headaches and I was also really tired during the day. So I work in IT and there were a few times where during the afternoon I sort of went face first into the keyboard.
Falling asleep at work ain't cool, especially when you start to drool.
It was then that Stu thought he'd better do something about it.
So at first I thought that it might have been a mucus build-up in the back of my throat. So I tried some nasal spray to try and deal with that. I tried losing weight, not so successfully. And so that was off to the doctor to get checked out.
After a sleep study, it was found that Stu had sleep apnea, a condition that causes you to stop breathing while asleep.
Because my sleep apnea was moderate, I was a candidate for a thing called a mandibular advancement splint, which is kind of like a mouth guard that you wear that pushes your lower jaw forward so that it helps to keep your airways open.
But after 15 years of using the splint, it stopped working, and so Stu moved to a CPAP machine.
I knew that CPAP was the last roll of the dice, and that a lot of people do have trouble coping with CPAP, but I just thought, well, I've got to make it work.
And luckily for Stu and his wife Marianne, it has.
Now that she's no longer sleep deprived, there's less chance I'll be murdered by my wife.
But Stu's story does not end there.
There's a big twist at the end, which is to find out that I'm all good, but then it turns out that Marianne's snoring and she has sleep apnea as well. Now we have his and hers CPAP machines.
One more time, oh yeah, my baby has sleep apnea.
And Stu's musical just played at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival to rave reviews.
What about that? The missus has been giving him stick all his life, and now it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
She's keeping him up and vice versa.
Glass
So
houses.
what do they call that?
Well, when both that's called divorce. But after the break, pull out your earplugs, put your chin straps, nasal strips and dilators to the side as our sleep expert pulls back the covers on the nightmare of snoring and sleep disorders. Welcome back. Before the break, we met Stu Walker, who came out at the end of his snoring nightmare, well slept and refreshed, and with a musical under his belt. Stu is one of the estimated 1.5 million Australians who suffer some kind of sleep disorder. And here to tell us more is Dr. David Cunnington from Australasian Sleep Association. Hello, David.
G'day, Jo.
Is it possible to cure snoring?
Yeah, unfortunately, snoring is something that gradually gets worse as we get older. In the same way, everything else gets a bit saggier and a bit floppier as we get older, unfortunately.
Hey, whoa!
The back of the airway also changes, and so as we go to breathe in, you just get a little bit more collapse in the back of the airway. So there are things you can do, losing weight, but really it is something that gradually gets worse as we get older. So we usually need a strategy.
I have to say, 1.5 million Aussies is a bit of a staggering statistic. How many people do you think are going around about their daily lives not realising they're living with a sleep disorder?
But actually, if you ask the Australian population, are you feeling sleepy or dissatisfied with your sleep, it's actually 40% of the population report positively to that. So it's not as if people are going around thinking they haven't got a sleep disorder. Lots of people are going around knowing they have got a sleep problem, but they're trying to fix it themselves or asking their neighbour for help or asking work colleagues. They really should be seeing their health professional to get help.
And what are the most common problems? And I guess, how does it affect not just your health, but your physical and mental health?
There's a range of different problems. So insomnia is very common. About 1 in 6 adults have trouble either getting to sleep or staying asleep, and it impacts on daytime functioning. About 1 in 20 adults have got obstructive sleep apnea or difficulty with breathing during sleep. And then proportions of people have sleep problems with depression or mental health issues, circadian rhythm problems. There's a whole range of different sleep problems. And they can really impact on people's physical health, but also their mental health, and increase the rates of depression and anxiety.
David, you talk about obstructive sleep apnea. More about the partner for me, because they actually stop breathing, don't they, for a long period of time, and the partner's there. How do they cope with that? That's a big strain on the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So people with both snoring and sleep apnea can really cause disturbance to the partner's sleep, not just their own health. Often sleep apnea too sounds terrible to a partner. It can be really distressing. Someone they care about's not breathing, and what the heck is going on, and what's concern for their health. So it really emphasises the importance of seeing someone to get some help about it, rather than just saying, it's not a thing, just get over it, to dismiss it.
So we saw with Stu that he tried pretty much everything for his snoring. He had splints and the CPAP machine and lots of different things. What are the best treatments, and how do you know what's right for you?
Really good question. So the short answer is, to know what's best for you, work with an expert. So go and seek medical advice. Talk to someone who knows what they're doing, because there are a whole range of different treatments. There are different surgeries, different devices, some of them like a thing like CPAP that Stu talked about, or dental appliances, but other things too, like keeping off your back, losing weight, exercise.
I read that you can sew a tennis ball in your partner's pyjamas so they can't roll on your back.
Do you recommend that?
So,
I've been that desperate, I have to say.
for some people, keeping off the back is enough to reduce snoring. Now, the trouble is something like that's often not that practical and can be a bit uncomfortable.
And is it hard often convincing the snorer that they've got the problem? That you know they need to seek some help. Gussie, was it been hard?
Yeah, I don't snore as far as I'm concerned. Never snored in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shared experience. So sometimes the problem's with the snorer and sometimes the problem's with the partner. So a light sleeper or someone who doesn't sleep well is pretty defensive about sleep, and that plus a snorer is just not a good combination.
So let me ask about insomnia, because my husband's a snorer and I'm an insomniac. I don't think one causes the other. But you do. I find myself just, as soon as I hit the pillow, unable to sleep, sometimes all night long. What can be done about that? Because I think that's an extremely common problem.
Oh, we can work with you on that, Joe. 'Cause part of it is in people who've had trouble with sleep, they get very defensive to threats to sleep. So things that are going to interfere with my sleep, I want that banished. I don't want that there. And so rather than someone who hasn't had trouble with sleep, for example, might see snoring as a comforting sign. Hey, my partner's there, he's doing all right, you know, his health is good. Someone who's had trouble with sleep is that noisy is going to disturb my sleep and I'm not going to tolerate that. So it can also be in part how you conceptualise it. So that's sometimes why we'll work with the partner as well as work with the snorer.
OK, so but it's very much, I think, about not stressing about the whole experience of sleep.
Absolutely.
Just allowing it to happen.
So as long as we've got good physical and mental health and can step back from that, our bodies will take the sleep they need without us having to manufacture it or manage it too tightly.
David, thank you so much. It's always so fascinating every time you come in.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Good on you, mate.
You're watching The House of Wellness, where today we're investigating how to get a great night's sleep. Now, I know that Rach is a big fan, Hines, of the blue light blocker glasses.
Yep, wears them religiously.
Yes, it's supposed to combat technology. Gus, you do breakfast radio. How do you go getting to bed at night?
Very hard, because I want to go to bed at 8 o'clock and that's all when the good stuff starts. And 3 teenage children, noisy, so much going on, so I need to do the across the eyes and I've got to put them in the ears, the earplugs, and I've just got to sit there and just hope that I go to sleep. Otherwise, I'm up and about and that's no good for me.
No, it's no good at all. Well, technology is so addictive it can get in the way of a good night's sleep, but it can also come in handy as a useful aid to combat snoring. Vanessa, you can help us with this.
Look, we know snoring gets in the way of a good night's sleep, particularly for the people around you. So that's no good. There was an economist who was trying to get his head around getting the data around snoring so that he could solve the problem. And he came up with Snore Lab. It was the beginning of the apps in this space. It inspired a whole lot of other apps, but Snore Lab is the first, and it will track when you're snoring and give you the feedback on the sort of quality of sleep that you're getting.
And it's a little bit more reliable than the wife telling you. Because I keep track, trust me. What about Snore Control?
Look, Snore Control tried to do something a little bit different. It was going to tell you what sort of level of snoring you were doing, but also try and intervene. So, like, wriggle or have a noise. You could only hope, right?
That's called a taser.
Give you those little nudges and maybe take you out of the deep sleep enough to notice that you're snoring, and then you could reset, change your position, go back to sleep again.
OK, well, the thing about what happens in our nighttime habits is that we're blissfully unaware because we're asleep. We've spoken about snoring. What about talking in our sleep, Gus?
I have full-on conversations.
How deep? And do secrets come out?
Yeah, apparently, like, it's the next morning, it's the text going, I wonder who that person was. Or, why were you groaning and all that stuff? 'Cause I go seriously deep and quite sort of detailed in all of my dreams. So I've been doing that for quite a while, and sleepwalking as well.
Really?
I nearly
You
rolled
do it all.
I do. Literally, I'm a full package. If you sleep with me, you're going to get more action with me wandering around without you than actually any action in the bed.
Well, interesting, around half of kids between the ages of 3 and 10 carry on whole conversations during the night, and that figure drops to about 5% as we get older. So, Vanessa, how can we find out if we talk in our sleep, and more importantly, how do we know what we say?
Well, I love this topic. My baby brother was one of these people. I could interrogate him and be like, what do you feel like for breakfast in the morning? And he'd start telling me and I'd magically whip it up and he would think that I was a mind reader. I really felt like that. Sleep Talk Recorder is the app that you want to try if you've got that sort of sleep talker around you, because we know that people can be hilarious at that stage and just no filter and ridiculous, you know, dream-inspired conversations. Why wouldn't we want to record it?
Now, Vanessa, people love oversharing these days, and some of the funny things that people have shared online include things like lentils are evil and vampire guinea pigs, we're done for, we're done for. What the absolute is going on? I mean, what else have people shared and recorded?
I think most of the delightful things are very surreal and, you know, people talking about real people but in ridiculous situations. And it's like, why is Keanu in their dream again?
Oh, it's so wonderful because is it our unconscious trying to tell us something? There's so much to uncover. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Next, we hear the remarkable story of how Dr. Michael Mosley put his diabetes into remission. But first, Zoe flips the dish on a French favourite.
My buckwheat crepes with whipped ricotta and roasted berries are the perfect recipe, not only because they're going to make you feel full and comfortable, but they're actually packed full of good nutrition. So what I'm going to start with is the batter. Buckwheat flour is gluten-free. It's made from a seed. I love it because it's also got B vitamins and it's got a little bit of protein in it. The ingredient I'm going to add is the Biogland maca powder. It's a root vegetable from Peru and has a nice sort of sweetness to it. But why I love it, it is so packed full of good nutrition. Magnesium, manganese, such a simple way to add more nutrition to a great recipe like this. I'm also going to add my milk, 1 egg, and I'm going to add a little bit of coconut oil. Whisk this to a smooth batter, and I'm going to let that rest. I'm going to start with my roasted berries. Now, I've got a selection of berries. I've got blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and the reason why I'm roasting them is that the natural sugar, the fructose, which is contained within berries, will almost explode and caramelise. So it's a really dynamic flavour to add to the earthiness of the buckwheat pancakes. Ricotta is jam-packed full of protein. All I'm adding to this is the zest of lemon, and I'm going to add some of my lemon juice as well and simply whip it up. Once your crepes are cooked, stuff them with ricotta and the beautiful roasted berries. You can give yourself a round of applause because you've created something which is packed full of vitamins and minerals.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness. National Diabetes Week shines a spotlight on the chronic disease that's become the country's biggest health challenge. And Gus, it's rising at an alarming rate and it's still not known what causes it.
Yeah, that's so true, Joe. What we do know is that diabetes 2 has a strong genetic connection and often no visible symptoms. Sometimes it's diagnosed later in life, so it can be put down to just simply getting older.
Well, lifestyle factors come into play too, and just how effective modifying those factors can be is all part of Dr. Michael Mosley's approach to health. And on his recent visit to Australia, the BBC journo and best-selling author spoke to me, I was so thrilled, I love him, about how he put his diabetes 2 into remission.
It is around March 2012. I've been to see my doctor. I actually thought I might have a melanoma. I was a bit worried about it. She did some blood tests. She rang me later to say, good news, no, your skin's fine. Bad news is you've got type 2 diabetes. Come in, repeat tests, more tests. And then she said, look, we've got to start you on medication. And I said, no, thanks, because my dad had had type 2 diabetes and had died of complications, even though he was taking the medication. So I thought, this is not a good way to go. And so I started researching it. I heard about intermittent fasting, like you. I thought this is crazy. Then I started talking to some of these scientists, particularly a guy called Mark Mattson, who's based at the National Institutes of Health in the US. And I persuaded the editor of the Horizon Science strand, God bless him, to commission a film in which I would try and see if I could cure myself of diabetes through intermittent fasting. And that's what I set off to do.
Did you have any inkling that it would work?
No. I was kind of, I was obviously optimistic because it had been a really depressing film. If I got off to do it, and absolutely nothing had happened, but there was no guarantees at all. And when I spoke to the scientists, they went, well, we don't know. We've done lots of experiments in rats. We know that it works surprisingly well in rats. Alternate day fasting seems to be quite effective. Done some human studies, but who knows? And then I set off to do it. We'd finished the film. They're off editing the film. And at the end of 8 weeks, when it comes to the end of the edit, we go and do the blood test, and blimey, my blood sugars are completely normal. I've lost 9 kilos. My waist has shrunk by 11 centimetres, and my blood sugars are entirely fine. And everyone is gobsmacked at this point, and obviously it makes a great film. I was absolutely astonished, I have to say, and I didn't really understand it. And it was actually a while later that I met a guy called Roy Taylor, Professor Roy Taylor, Professor of Medicine and Metabolism at Newcastle University, and he explained to me why my diabetes had gone away. He said basically it was the rapid weight loss that had led to the fat draining out of my liver and my pancreas, and he had already demonstrated in about a dozen patients that you could put diabetes into remission. That's the word he uses. He doesn't like the word reverse, because reverse implies it's permanent, and if you put the fat on again, then there's a good chance it will come back. So he's the guy who really explained the science to me. He had all the science behind him. He was one of the world's leading diabetes specialists. And just like Barry Marshall, your lovely old Nobel Prize winner, when he started telling people about this stuff, nobody believed him. All the other doctors said, nah, this is nonsense. We know that type 2 diabetes is an irreversible condition. You start the medication, you get worse and worse, you probably end up on insulin. And that is just how diabetes is. And he says, not true. I'm seeing all these patients who are losing weight, their diabetes is going away, explain that. And that's kind of how I ended up writing the 8-week blood sugar diet with Roy. And indeed the Fast 800, which is an extension of that. So at each stage, basically, I've relied on, other people's science.
And then subjected yourself to the experiment.
Quite, yes.
So the key is not how you do it, it's dropping the weight rapidly that reverses diabetes too.
Indeed, if you can kind of do it slowly, that might work as well. But the evidence is very strong that it needs to be rapid, and you need to lose about 10% of your body weight, which sounds like quite a lot, but I lost 9 kilos, which was pretty much 10% of my body weight at the time. So that's kind of figure. If you lose more, then the chance of success is greater. But certainly with a figure like that, there's something like 60, 70% chance that you will be able to put your diabetes into remission, come off all your drugs and things like that. It depends how long you've been diabetic for. The longer, the more damage has been done. If you do it as a pre-diabetic, before you actually tip over into type 2 diabetes, even better. But as I said, this stuff has moved on from being kind of slightly crazy stuff to absolutely mainstream, mainly thanks to Roy Taylor and other scientists who've done the really big trials, which have demonstrated its effectiveness.
Wow, what an amazing story, Joe. And, somewhat controversial, but I think there's been a growing amount of research now that does back his findings.
Look, it's really fascinating, and he is someone who never says anything without the backing of research and science. Even he experiments on himself all the time, so he puts his own body on the line. He told me that his next thing is on sleep, so I cannot wait to hear what he digs up there. But let's stay with diabetes for the moment. Around 1.7 million Australians have diabetes, and 85 to 90% of those are type 2 cases. It's a growing epidemic, and here to tell us more, welcome Renza Scabilia from Diabetes Australia.
Hi, thanks
welcome.
for having me here.
Renza, can you tell us exactly what diabetes is and how serious is it?
It's really serious. So I think that's a good place to start with. It's serious and it's complex, and it's not just one thing. So we really talk about 2 main types of diabetes. We talk about type 1 diabetes, which used to be called juvenile diabetes, but we don't call it that because it actually can occur in people of any age.
Right. Okay.
And that means that the body has stopped producing insulin. So people with type 1 diabetes need to have injections or use an insulin pump to give themselves insulin. And then we have type 2 diabetes, which I think is what we're really talking about today and what Michael Mosley was speaking about. And that's where the body is actually still producing insulin. It's just not able to use it properly. It becomes quite resistant to insulin.
Now, we hear about people with diabetes not being able to eat certain foods. What are those foods and why are they so important that they don't eat them?
So there's no such thing as a diet for people with diabetes. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay, so, you know, you go and you can see things that have got diabetic jam on them, and I always think, how did the jam get diabetes? So I think that what we need to remember is that there is no one eating plan that works for everybody with diabetes. There are certainly some foods that you might want to avoid, so things that are really high in fat and really high in sugar and those sorts of things, but we all should probably be doing that a little bit. Yeah. So eating a healthy diet, that is what we should all be aiming for, including people living with diabetes.
Look, Renza, it's fair to say that it goes beyond just changing what you eat too.
Yes.
What are some of the broader risks associated with diabetes?
So this is when we're talking about how serious diabetes is, okay? So there are diabetes-related complications that we often hear about, and they are quite scary, but I think we do need to talk about what they are. So these are things like blindness, lower limb amputation, kidney failure, and also there's an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, so heart attack and stroke. So these are really serious, and this is why we need to diagnose people really early and get them treated really early so that we can do everything to manage people the best way possible so that they don't develop these complications.
It's become an epidemic in this country.
Yes.
Why? Why has it risen so much?
And globally as well. We kind of don't know. We don't know completely. We certainly know that there are some reasons. So with type 1 diabetes, that's also increasing, and we don't know why that's happening, but it is increasing around the world. With type 2 diabetes, we certainly can point to some things like where we talk about, you know, eating foods that perhaps are not as healthy as we used to eat previously. We have a far more sedentary lifestyle. We don't move as much as we used to do. So all of those sorts of things certainly are contributing to type 2 diabetes.
So, Renza, you just saw Dr. Michael Mosley there, and we featured him last week and this week on the show. He used rapid weight loss and intermittent fasting to, well, put his type 2 diabetes into remission, not necessarily cure it, he says. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we need to be really careful. There is no cure for diabetes, for any sort of diabetes. So I think there is an increasing body of evidence around how we can treat some types of type 2 diabetes, perhaps with this rapid weight loss. I think we need to be really, really careful. It is such a big issue. We do really want that magic bullet, okay? We're all looking for that. We want to be able to do one thing and it's going to cure diabetes or put it in remission or... We can't do that. For some people, this might work. How sustainable is it though? I mean, we heard Michael explain just, you know, really low calorie diet and what that looks like. How are people going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time? Will they be able to maintain that? But also, diabetes isn't just about, or type 2 diabetes isn't just about obesity or being overweight. There are people who are of a healthy weight when they're diagnosed, so losing weight actually could be quite dangerous to them if they're starting to eat a low calorie diet. It's such a complex condition, and there isn't a one idea fixes everything for people living with diabetes.
Well, Renza, thank you so much, because it is a very complicated issue. It's fantastic to hear all the different intricacies of that. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Renza.
Thank you.
Still to come on the House of Wellness, our friend right here, Gus Warland, is in for a very big surprise. I can't wait. That is next. So stick around for that one. Welcome back. Being sun smart is the best prevention for skin cancer, plus the best defence against things like age and sunspots, brown patches and freckles. You know it. So in our quest for a fresh complexion, we went to the experts to get the lowdown on skin pigmentation.
What causes pigmentation is often down to hormonal changes, medication that you could be on, sun damage and UV light damage, and it can also be environmental stresses. Pigmentation can make you look older than you actually are. Pigmentation can cause the skin to be tired and blotchy and dull. A clear complexion will make you look visibly brighter and healthier and less tired. Unfortunately, some skin types are more susceptible to pigmentation, particularly those with darker skin tones. They tend to pigment more because they have more active pigment in their skin, and it can be from mostly hormonal changes or a post-inflammatory pigment. But saying that, fair skin can also pigment, and that's from sun-induced UV damage that can cause freckles and spots, sunspots on the skin. But overall, anyone can be affected by pigmentation due to hormonal changes in the skin. We usually usually see pigmentation present itself when we're in our 40s. So that means that we often forget about it until this stage, but it's really important that we're preventing any sun damage to make sure we don't get any pigmentation issues in the future. Well, prevention is definitely better than cure. So what we'd suggest is definitely using a high SPF sunscreen to help prevent pigmentation in the future. And this you can start anytime you go out in the sun from an early age. So not only will using a high SPF help prevent pigmentation, it can also help prevent skin cancers, a rough and leathery skin texture, and also it can help prevent premature aging. It's really important to look for vitamin C, vitamin B3 and vitamin E. So vitamin C is an antioxidant that combats free radical production. It also helps with the dark patches and the dark spots of the skin, and it will help to even out the skin tone as well. Vitamin B3, otherwise known as niacinamide, helps with the tone and texture of the skin, and it can also help with fine lines and wrinkles. Vitamin E is another antioxidant that's fantastic to help with the barrier function of the skin. It also can help to soothe and tone the skin as well. It can take anywhere from 4 weeks to a few months to see a sort of improvement in your pigmentation. We have to remember that that pigmentation has taken a long time to mature within the skin, so we have to be consistent and patient with our skincare regimes. Also, it takes about 30 days for the skin to renew itself, and so it can take quite a while for that to take effect. It also depends on how long you've had that pigmentation, how deep it is, and what caused it. I know I've said it many times already, but the most important thing to do is to wear that high SPF sunscreen every day. There is no point spending money on a skincare regime if you're not protecting your skin from any further damage.
Hey ladies, I've got some goodies for us to try.
What do you have there?
Exciting. It's a new one. So it's called the Lucent Even Tone Dark Spot Corrector to visibly reduce pigmentation.
You know, there are actually so many causes of pigmentation. The sun, for one, actually causes lots of dark spots on lots of people.
This could be really good. I do have a very uneven skin tone. I struggle with it a lot, so I'm constantly wearing a full foundation to try and even it out.
It could be good for sun damage as well.
Yeah, and you could layer it. You could put sunscreen over the top.
Yeah, perfect. So it says the range is infused with a combination of active ingredients that work together to help reduce pigmentation.
It's really shiny.
Ooh. Nice packaging.
And it also has safflower seed oil and vitamins B3 and E, which are definitely great for evening skin tone.
Great.
All right, do you guys want to try it out?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is. It really goes on really.
Oh, it's so silky.
Really silky.
Yeah.
So nice.
Oh, I like it.
And it seems like this could definitely go under makeup, so you wouldn't have any issue.
Yeah. It almost feels like a primer.
Yeah, it does.
I'm definitely going to get my mum to try this.
My mum would love it.
Yeah.
So funny.
And I love a brightening product, especially one with vitamin C.
I put, an eye cream on at night, but it's more for puffiness rather than like skin tone.
Okay.
It's something quite new. I don't often see things that are aimed towards dark spots under the eyes like that are actually a skincare thing.
Yeah.
I usually see makeup, but this is something different.
I'm definitely going to use it under my eyes, that's for sure.
What I really love about this product is a little goes a long way.
So what do you think, girls? Are we going to give it a go?
Yes, definitely.
Well, one man who's always bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and glowing from the inside out is our man at the health bar, Jared Quigley.
Thank you, Joe. That's me you're talking about.
What do you mean?
And sometimes... Now settle. Sometimes when you have a really good night's sleep, though, like most people, I do wake up sometimes just a little slowly, a little bit achy, and that's probably because you've been lying in the same spot for quite a while. So it's a fairly common issue.
Now, look, it might be hard for you to believe because I'm much younger, Gerald, but I also suffer from joint and knee and back pain. What does cause joint pain?
lots of reasons. Often it's age, but it can be other things like weight. It can be your food options. It can be some of the challenges we find with the development of chronic disease, so arthritis or gout or lupus. So these are all issues that can affect the joint health, essentially.
Look, clearly nutrients make all the difference, but what are some that you'd recommend specifically for joint pain?
There are some basic ones, Heinzie. Collagen, the most prolific protein in our body, one of your favourites, I know, but that's important for the formation of ligaments and bones and skin and muscles. Now add to that things like glucosamine, really important for cartilage production, chondroitin, which often occurs with it, and the glue that sticks them together, hyaluronic acid. Now it's a big word, but that's the glue that keeps it all together.
Mate, you know I love my bone broth for the collagen benefits. What other foods have these nutrients?
Anti-inflammatory foods, Heinzie, so green leafy vegetables in season, citrus fruits, oysters, good because there's a bit of zinc mineral in there as well. But those things, they're things you can actually decide to have every day, which is really good. But there can be shortages sometimes, can't there?
If you're deficient in these nutrients, what else could you take?
Remembering those 4 we talked about. So you can get them all together as eggshell membrane powder, which contains the glucosamine, the chondroitin, and the collagen and the hyaluronic acid all put together. Now, this is perfect for a person who perhaps can't take glucosamine, who might be allergic to seafood, because it's an egg derivative, and that's an ideal way to actually support a good, healthy, functioning joint.
Who else would you recommend takes it and from what age?
Really, there's no age. So anybody with stiff joints, sore joints, with a predisposition to arthritis, someone who just wants to ensure that their joints stay as well as they possibly can be for as long as possible.
Mate, is there anything else we can do to wake up and jump out of bed with a bit of a spring in our step to combat joint stiffness?
We often need warmth, Heinzie, so a hot shower, that's the best way.
Or
you can use a warm pack. Well, cuddle, then the shower.
Mate, I love when we get to hang out here at the Health Bar. Thank you, Gerald, for your insight. The A to Z of vitamins is brought to you by Ethical Nutrients, creators of premium quality natural medicines that speak your body's language.
As we know, when he's not hosting the House of Wellness, the incredible Gus Worland is on a mission to improve the mental health of men and boys throughout his program, Gotcha for Life. Gus, there's lots going on with the current mental health inquiry, which is an exciting thing.
Yeah, of course. Anytime we're talking about mental health in particular is important. Anytime we're out there having honest, open conversations where blokes are feeling a little uncomfortable, that's where we need to sit, because we've been way too comfy for way too long, and we've got a massive problem in this country, losing 6 beautiful men every single day. It's a national disgrace. So we need to have the open, honest conversations, and this inquiry hopefully will just keep those conversations flowing.
Absolutely. And of course, a partner behind the scenes who helps to support Gus's foundation is Chemist Warehouse, and joining us today is Damien Gans.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming along.
Welcome, Damien.
Champion.
Thank you.
Damien, can you give us some background as to how Chemist Warehouse began working with Gus and Gotcha for Life?
Sure. Well, we first got introduced to Gus through one of our other charity partners, and when you speak to him, you hear his passion for men's mental health, his personal story and the mission he's on. You almost feel compelled to help, and that's how we got involved.
Damien, can you tell us more about why it's such an important relationship for Chemist Warehouse?
We really believe that it's important that we try and ensure everyone can live well, get well, stay well. We do believe in the House of Wellness, and we've got other things that we do that we support, which speaks to women's health, children's health, and this was the natural fit, where it was just another charitable thing that we could engage with that was for men's health.
Now, Gus, it's a big moment. Damien.
There's something going on.
Been set up.
What is going on?
Damien, you have a very special gift for Gus here.
We do. We're really thrilled to present to the Gotcha Life Foundation a cheque for $1 million that we've raised to help you on your efforts to continue to support men's mental health. So congratulations for all the work you've done.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Oh my God.
$1 million, Gus. What does this mean to you, and what will this money help you with?
Oh, Gussie.
Well, firstly, thank you so much. Thank you. But Joe, to have people believe in you That's the key. We started this 3 years ago off the back of a show I'd done, Man Up, as you know, and then all of a sudden you have people who are great professional people who just go, I'm going to back you no matter what. And they've not just given me $1 million, they've given me money in the last couple of years as well. And now they're saying to me, you're validated, and go out and do more work. And I cannot tell you what $1 million will do, and the programs that we can put together and get so many more people out there having proper, honest conversations. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I'm not speechless because it takes me a lot to get speechless, but this is just amazing. And I can tell you we've got some programs, the Tomorrow Man program, which is our program to just go into schools and educate young men on what it takes to be a man today rather than trying to live to the man rules that were built so long ago. We've got an Indigenous program, Weave, that we go into inner city schools and speak to boys and girls, Indigenous, who are just really battling and struggling, and giving them an understanding and some love and some connection. We look after Lifeline. Any man who wants to go on the phones at Lifeline, we will pay for the difference between the government and what you have to pay, so you're not out of pocket. And we have a wonderful program called Rock that goes out to country areas and talks to country men. Massive problem in the country. So they're just some of the programs, and if anyone wants to go to the House of Wellness website and just throw ideas at us, we're very happy to help seed fund lots of different ideas. We can't have enough good people out there doing wonderful work, and I cannot tell you, wow, $1 million, what that actually does. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's so amazing, Gussie. We're all so proud of you. But Damien, I want to know, how did Chemist Warehouse go about raising the $1 million?
It's been a group effort, to be honest. So we've had some of our supplier partners. We've had Synovus, we've had Lynx, we've had Chic, and just to name a few who've contributed materially to our efforts. But we've also had at the store level, we've had our staff going out and raising money with barbecues and just anything they can do to get money from the community that we can then go and pass on to the Gotcha for Life Foundation, which is fantastic.
It is a very powerful thing that you have done. Thank you so much, Damien, for coming in, and congratulations, Gussie.
Thanks, Jo.
We know that Australia's men are in good hands.
Well, I hope so, and let's just keep the conversations going. If you love a man in your life, let him know it's okay not to be okay. Let him know that we don't have to have all the answers.
Yes.
Because being an Aussie bloke's awesome, but it's fine to have a few questions bumbling around in that massive melon of ours.
Well, that is another Das and Rach free show for this week.
Thank God for that. Get rid of those two.
Das will be back with us next week, but we've loved having you on the couch, Gus. Thank you so much.
pleasure, Jo.
Bianca, it's just been awesome once again.
Thank you.
We've been great. And you can find more info on anything from today's show on our website, houseofwellness.com.au. Don't forget to tune into the House of Wellness radio show every Sunday. And today, a very personal thank you to Damien and all at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.
Come on!
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.